Locho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe tinle yarngonda belge drolor zampe tse parche palden lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajra dara suma timo nisha sane karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Suma Timo Nisha Sane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dāgī jitsun lama tuje je nyamda dala tuje siksu so Gebe shesan dala tendu so Uyon sungi nawa tsedu so Teji nyingne sowa debe tse Dechen korlo visu lekshu ne Ila sambe dede malupa Gemel hungi dubra jingil Sonyi sodan dikdun shape tse Dungi namge yinsu lekshu ne Labchen sonyi yonsu zopada chera nyedun changra jingil Chancho parge nyinsen tukun tu nyu peme sudro lekshun Chancho drube gegen kunshishi tungen dela drubra jingil Dagi lona chola chopada chumi samjur ngenpa shiwad Chodan tumpe dede malupa bemel hungi drubra jingil Dorna tengne tsera tamche dan techi pardune Rese kyamne lama kele me tuje chingi dala siksu so Gongyab drewe nyamda da chala jetsun lame tuje rabgong Kodan sunge nawa drame tu nyamsu nyome kesan toprash Kewa kundu yanda lama dan rame chiki pela longche chin Sadan lamge yunde rabzone Dorje change koba nyur toba sho Pakyuke kudan dagi lo Pakyuke sundan dagi nga Pakyuke tukdan dagi yi Ten yerme chiktu jingi lo Makyuke kudan dagi lo Makyuke sundan dagi nga Makyuke tukdan dagi yi Ten yerme chiktu jingi lo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni just to recite the three main aspects of the path written by Lama Tsongkhapa before we start with the actual teachings. Gyaltsen Lama Nam La Ya Cha Tse Lo Ya Gyawe Sonra Kungi Nimbo Ten Gyase Thamba Namge Ngabe Lam Kalden Tarde Namge Chunga De Chitra Nishin Dage Shebra Cha Kanda Sibe De La Ma Cha Shin Del Chura Tenye Cha Chire Tsambai Gyawa Gebe Lam La Yi Tenpe Kalden Deda Thangwe Yigi Nye Namda nge chung mebra sitso ye dendre tenire shiwe tamela sila kamba ye kya luche na kune chinchira tomara nge chung tsen del chora nyega tsela lome pa ye la kombe tsede na shedo ledre milu korwe dunge na yang yang sambe chime na shedo Tedra kombe korwe pinso la yimen keje tsamya migeshi Yinsen kundu tarpa tenira lo chungna teze ngechung keba la ngechung tenya namda simgegi simba mena lame chanchuk Pinso dewe gyuru mi gyuru we lode namge chanchu simchuk shukra chuwo shi gyungi kera dega legi chingwa tampe dam dansen chage drawe buksu tsu mari mimbe makchen kune tip Mume sibra keshin kewaru dunge sumge gyunche mebarna nega dendra gyurwe manamge nganso samne simcho kebrazo nelu tope shera midena ngechon chancho simla kumche kyo sibe tsawa chebra minu pe techir dendre tope tablabe kanshi korde chonam tamche gi gyunre namya loa medonshi Mikpe teso kanyi kunshi ba tenye sangye gebe lamla shu nawa tendre luwa meba da tomba kelen talwe kowa ni jisi sosoro nawa tesi tu tadun tube gomba toba namshi rejo mebara chikchara tu tendre milur tongwa tsamni ne ngeshe yugi zindan kunshi na tetse tawe cheba tsoba la Shenya nawe yoda sewa dan tombe meda selchen tomba Yudan rebu charwe tsuche na tarzin tawe trubra migyuro Dedra lamge tsowo namsungi nenam rangi jishin topetse Emba tende tsundru topge ne tengi duma nyurdo trubshi apu yamime tsewe terche chenre Rime kembe wambo jambe liang dibo malo jomse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losang rabe shabla sowa de mime tsewe terche chenre si Rime kembe wambo jambe dibo malo jomse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losang rabe shabla sowa mime tsewe terche chenre si Rime kembe wambo jambe Jomse sangwe da kanche kebe tsuge tsongkhapa Losang rabe shabla sowa de mime tsewe terche chenre Rime kimbe wambo jambe liang dibu malo jomse sangwe da kanche kebe tsuge tsongkhapa Losang rabe shabla solwa de Sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso che dage jinso gibe sonam ge rola penchira sangye drupa rasho sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso che dage cheshe gibe sonam ge Drola pinchira sangye drupara sho sangye chodan soge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dage chushe gibe sonamgi Drola pinchira sangye drupara sho In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, today we'll go sooner to the text, but I would just like to remember the point in which we are of this text of the wholesome questions from Lama Tsongkhapa with the noble-minded answers from Panchen, Losang, Chokyi, Gyaltsen. And there has been, for centuries, discussions about the correct form of meditation in order to get free from the cycle of samsara, in order to eliminate our own ignorance. In other words, there has been a long time discussion about what's the correct form of meditation regarding the true nature of reality. And this has been also one of the main discussions between different philosophical schools and different Buddhist traditions inside Tibet, and also before in India even. Okay. So, for example, I believe that Lama Tsongkhapa, his intention was never to create a new tradition, a new school. Personally, I believe that was not his intention. Simply, he was a very great yogi, a great scholar, a great realized master. But he was great scholar, and while he was studying and understanding well the teachings and meditating, he saw that the way how it was explained, in the most well-known way in Tibet, for him was not coherent, was not the right way. So actually what he did is that he went back to the original texts before Buddhism came to Tibet itself. And he went to discuss with all the other masters also that were at that time there. But the problem was that many of them were not really open to discussion, which means my tradition says this. It doesn't matter if you prove me the other way around. I'm going to continue to do as I do. So finally he was obliged to make his own school, his own tradition, because there was not the openness to share and to change one's point of view and to share the open discussion. This, personally, I believe that the most important thing for us is that we are here in the search of a path that is truly beneficial for ourselves, independently of the name that we give to it, the tradition that we are part of. I really don't care much about that aspect. I do believe that when we have a tradition, it's important to have coherence with the tradition we follow, because every lineage, every tradition have a way of transmitting which has coherence, beginning, middle, end. There is a way of doing it, so we need to respect it. But still, there's not the point of being of this tradition or that tradition. The point is of doing the things in a way that really works for us. That's the most important thing. And regarding the meditation on the ultimate meaning, there has been for a long time this idea of, okay, we just need to empty the mind. The meditation of emptying the mind is not a negative meditation by itself. The point here is not saying that it's negative or it's harmful and so on. The main point is discussing, is it the correct meditation on the true nature of reality or not? Is it the correct meditation to eliminate ignorance or not? That's the main point. Okay? We're not saying here that, okay, if you just abstract your mind from every conceptual thought and stay in a non-conceptual state of nothingness somehow with the mind, I think it's quite pleasurable. And it's very good to relax the mind from all the different thousands of thoughts we have normally. And I'm sure it will bring many benefits also, in a way. But it is not meditating on the ultimate meaning. It is not a meditation through which we will familiarize ourselves with the wisdom that eliminates the ignorance as the root of our own suffering. In other words, our anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, fear, anxiety, insatisfaction, and so on, all of these are coming from two main attitudes, which is attraction and aversion. We don't want to suffer, so we have aversion to everything that we see as a cause of suffering. We want to be happy, so we have attraction to everything that we see as a cause for happiness. And this attraction and aversion are coming from our selfishness, which is the obsession with self-gratification that we have. We do everything thinking of the I and the my. And where is this obsession with self-gratification, the selfishness, actually coming from? It is coming from the ignorance through which we grasp at reality as if being of inherent existence. We grasp at reality. It appears to us and we believe in it. We grasp at it as if it would exist independently of causes, of conditions, of the observer, as if reality was just there by itself. Okay? So it has an independent, autonomous, inherent existence. So because of this ignorance, we end up seeing the world and ourselves as two completely different entities, and everything separately. And this creates the selfishness, which is a result of attraction and aversion, which results in attraction and aversion, which results in anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, fear, and so on. Okay? So basically, we don't want to suffer, and because we don't want to suffer, we must eliminate our own mental defilements, which is, as we just said, anger, attachment, desire, fear, jealousy, pride, miserliness, anxiety, and so on, which come from attraction and aversion, which comes from selfishness. And selfishness is coming from ignorance. So, ultimately, what we need to do in order to eliminate our own suffering, and in order to be able to help others to eliminate their own suffering also, is to eliminate our own selfishness, and to do that also we need ultimately to eliminate our own ignorance. That's the main goal. So, when we talk here about meditating on the ultimate meaning, it means what is the meditation that can directly oppose the mind of ignorance. That's the main point, because we are talking about going against the root of our own suffering. So, here, just emptying the mind and not having any conceptual thoughts and just staying in this state of nothingness, it's not going to eliminate our ignorance, because it's not a direct opposite mode of apprehension of ignorance itself. Okay? So this is one of the main points that we bring here. And for centuries, this has been one of the main objects of discussion between Buddhist traditions. Okay, which is the correct way to meditate on wisdom? Because that's our main goal. Okay? Bene. So this is the point of the text which we are there. It's give a lot of emphasis. Lama Tsongkhapa put a lot of emphasis in this, exactly because of this reason. Okay? Because as it was said at the very beginning of the text, if we meditate wrongly on emptiness, it can be very dangerous. Because we can develop a wonderful ability of meditation, but if we are familiarizing our mind with the wrong object, let's say we develop a very good ability of concentration, but then we just stay concentrating the mind on nothingness, we end up generating a mind of nihilism, that nothing exists, other than generating the mind that perceives interdependence. So, for that reason, it's so important to have the correct way of doing it. So just remembering this aspect, as I said before, that Lama Tsongkhapa, was not keen of making, this is my own point of view, he was not in his main objective to make a new tradition. What happened is that at the same time, some masters of his time were open to change and to learn and to understand something differently, and others were not. If they have been open, most probably there was not a need of making a new tradition. But some of them were very open. For example, Kedru Rinpoche, and which later became one of the main disciples of Lama Tsongkhapa, is the one depicted on the right side of Lama Tsongkhapa. Sorry, on the left side of Lama Tsongkhapa, on our right side. Kedru Rinpoche, he was a very direct person. He was not very much into respecting conventions and being politically correct. He was doing whatever he thought was right. And when he arrived to see Lama Tsongkhapa for the first time, Lama Tsongkhapa was giving teachings on emptiness, on the correct view of reality. And instead of just sitting on the side and listening, he came in with his hat on. And the hat, I think, as it was in the West until some time ago, it represents status. Depending on type of hat that you use, it represents which is your position, and so on and so on. So similar in Tibet was the same, and he had his hat, which symbolized that he was an important master of his own tradition. So he went inside with the hat. He entered the Gompa with the hat on, and then, which is also a sign of lack of respect, because normally, as in the West, to respect someone, you take your hat out. Even up to today, even though hats are not anymore a symbol of status, still, when you go inside a church or you go inside a house of a person or you sit on a table, you're supposed to take your hat off. There are even teachings coming from India saying you are not supposed to give teachings to people wearing hats, because it means they have no respect for the Dharma. This is like originally, but this is convention. Anyhow, the fact is that he kept his hat on, and then, I don't remember exactly if he was from the Sakya or the Kargya tradition. Anyhow, he kept his hat on, and then he went walking slowly towards Lama Tsongkhapa while he was giving the teachings. And then he went towards the throne. So he went up to the throne. Lama Tsongkhapa just went a little bit aside. Luckily, I think it was a big throne, so he sat together with Lama Tsongkhapa there. And there he was there, quite strange situation. And Lama Tsongkhapa just continued giving the teachings. At a certain point, he took his hat off first. Then slowly he went down. He did 3 prostrations, and he sat down as a disciple. And he never stand up again. In a sense, he became for his whole life disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa, and one of the most important disciples of Lama Tsongkhapa. Actually said to be that he was the actual heart son of Lama Tsongkhapa. So, the point is that Khedru Rinpoche, he was looking for truth. And when he found someone that explained in a better way than the way he was used to, he just followed him. Not because Lama Tsongkhapa was famous, or not because of this or that, or not because he's master of this tradition or that tradition, but because he was explaining things in a clear and truthful way. And he found him as the true master to follow. So, just to say that it's not the main, and also in the text that we have here, Lama Tsongkhapa put very clearly, it's not important what is the name of your tradition. It's not important if you are from this or that tradition. The important thing is that you meditate correctly. That's the main thing. That you follow the right path. And we are here. For me, it's very important for us not to develop great attachment towards one's own tradition and name. Sure, we need to follow in a coherent way and respect one's tradition. But at the same time, very often I see that people develop one feeling, which I don't know how to say it in English. In Tibetan it's said shengo, which is like the sense of being part of something. And we develop an attachment to it. It's like what fans have towards like soccer clubs. It's like, I don't know how to say this feeling. What's the name that we give to that? In Tibetan there is a precise word, which we say shengo. Sorry? It's connected to a clan mentality, but it's like the feeling of attachment towards what we are part of. And we have this towards my family, we have this towards, why my family? Because it's my family. Belonging, it's a sense of belonging, but it's a very strong attachment to our own sense of belonging. And it's not only the sense of belonging, which actually is quite nice to belong to something, but it's like, my one is better than yours. So why my soccer team is better than yours? Because it's mine. No other reason. Okay? So, what happens is that very often people develop the same sense of belonging with a strong attachment towards religion also. Like inside of Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we have the Nyingma, the Kargyo, the Sakya, the Geluk, all 4 main traditions. There's the Jonangpa also, there are many traditions. And very often you see people acting like, I am Gelo, this is Nyingma, this is Sakya, this is Kargyo, or this is Gelo, like relating to the other traditions as something which is not good enough. Why? Because it's not of my own tradition. But then you go to most of these people and you ask them, what's the main difference between your tradition and the other? And they don't know. They have no idea. Why is the Gelupa better? Why is the Nyingma better? Why is the Kargyo better? It's because it's my tradition. That's the only reason most of the people would have. This is a clear sign of ignorance. Okay? So we should not be so much attached to the belonging of our tradition. We should belong to one's own tradition, to one's own lineage, deeply respect, deeply follow it correctly because there is a coherence inside every tradition. But never feel superior to someone else because we are from a different tradition, or have aversion to someone just because they are from a different tradition and the way of doing is different. Like, I remember one time I went to receive some teachings from His Holiness the Dalai Lama in a Nyingma monastery. And then we went to the puja, and while doing the puja, in the Nyingma tradition there in that monastery, they would play the bell and the drums while reciting 21 taras, which in a Gelupa monastery normally never happens. So then there were commentaries, oh, look at them, they play drums while doing the 21 taras, how awkward is that? Look at, like, in a pejorative way, like, what's the difference? Okay, just a matter of the way how tradition developed, so what? But because, it's very interesting, but we human beings, we tend to have more difficulty to accept those that are more similar than those that are more different. I don't know why, but it's like that. When there is someone that is very similar, we very difficultly we accept the small differences. When there is someone that is completely different, okay, he's different, I accept it somehow. So, this somehow is something that we need to be careful not to be part of that. We just need to be careful in order to, like Lama Ganchen does, respect all traditions. And not to then, we need to follow the truth, not to follow the name or to be part of, to belong to something or that. At the same time, we need to belong, which is important also. But without feeling superior, without treating others, okay, I am better than you or this or that. It's like one time I was in Nepal, and one person came to me and said, oh, there is one monk from a very old tradition that is being almost lost, and he's maybe one of the only ones holding these teachings, and would you like to go to listen from his teachings and get some transmissions from him and so on? And I said, no. And then this person, oh, what do you have against? I said, nothing at all. But I'm not able to put into practice everything that I have already received from my masters. And it's more than enough of what I need. I'm not making collection of teachings. I have deep respect for the other tradition. But if I follow it, then I need to follow it deeply and correctly and throughoutly, like within a complete way. Not just like a little here, little there, and this is not respectful even, for myself and for others. So nothing against other traditions, the other way around, deep respect. But I need to follow in a coherent way what I learn and within my the system that I choose. The fact that I choose one system doesn't mean that I do not respect another. But it means that's the one that I feel more suitable and there are better conditions for me to follow. Simply as that. Okay? This is important because it's like there is one verse. Let me see if I have it in the phone here. I should have it. 1 second. I'm not really sure if I have it here, but I think so. No, it's not here. Oh, here, it is. Denching tena chibe nga kyangnyun miden töndan galna gyalwe kaya sho. From Lotsawa Vedochana. From the great not Lotsawa, Lochen Vedochana. It was a great master. And he said, Denching tena chibe nga kyangnyun. If it's correct and true, even if said by a child, you should follow. Miden töndan galna gyawe kaya sho. If it's not truth and contradictory, not correct, even if said by Buddha, you should let it be. You should give it up. So that's the main point. Whoever said it, we should just follow. It doesn't matter, like, if it's truth, that's what we should follow. We should follow the actual truth, It's like, there was one other master in India. He was a master from a Hindu tradition. And one time, I don't know exactly, I don't remember the details why, but he got trapped into a Buddhist library. He got inside, whatever reason, he got inside the Buddhist library and the doors were closed and he couldn't get out. So he stayed there for 1 week or something like that without being able to get out. I don't remember the exact time. It was a long time. Anyhow, so he finally, in the beginning, he was nervous and what I do and worried. Then at a certain point, he just relaxed and he said, okay, let me do something. So he started taking books and reading. He was a great scholar himself. And finally, he started reading Buddhist books which would have never read before. And when he came out of the library, he became a Buddhist. And then he wrote, there's a famous line that he wrote, which is, anyhow, in which he says something like that. I don't remember the precise words, but in which he says, I have no attraction to Buddha and no aversion to Sergya. Sergya was the name of the founder of the teacher of his own tradition, the founder of his own tradition. He said, I have no aversion to Sergya and no attraction to Buddha, but I follow whoever says the truth. I follow the actual truth. Whoever says what is coherent, whoever says what is truth, that's what I would follow. So, and after he became a well-known Buddhist master later. So the point is that we need to follow what is coherent. We need to follow what is truth. We need to follow what is beneficial to us. That's the main thing. Because one day we will die. And when we die, after death, there is no Gelupa, no Nyingma, no Kagyu, no Sakya, no Buddhist, no Christian. It's not like, okay, I am Gelu, so there is a special place waiting for me. I have priority line. Because I am a Geluk Buddhist. No. When we die, and actually the same thing during lifetime, what will make the difference is how much love I have developed, how much compassion I have, how much wisdom I have, how clear my mind is, how coherent are my actions. This is what really matters finally. It's not a matter of which tradition I am part of. If I am Buddhist or Christian or if I have no religion, that's not the point really. So, it's very important, just wanted to touch this point because otherwise we enter here into discussion about the techniques of meditation and looks like we are against it. Some people, other tradition has nothing to do with that. It's just trying to make clear what is the correct way of meditating on emptiness, on the truth's nature of on the ultimate nature of reality. Okay? But deep respect, as Atisha used to say in the text of the Norbutenwa, the jewel garland of the Bodhisattva, he said, respect every tradition and follow the one you prefer with faith and dedication. So this is what I think it's really important in this way. Okay? Well, let's go back to the text. As always, I end up making a long introduction. I wanted to make it short today, but okay. Where were we? 33D, right? Okay. But we still need to read the answer, the 33C answer, okay? So we'll go directly to the 33C answer, which is quite simple. Mikche mikme chebayang mikten yewe kebargis. Mikche mikme chebayang mikten yewe kebargi. Tenda mikpa mebadang kunzo mikche shekyangjo. Tena kunzo dempala mikpe shila nigayang mikche gomdu debaying. Tendam mikme chebayang denzi mikte dultsamyang mechir teke cheshacha teke che chate pakpa daga Yeshele, Chenam Ranshi Vesalwe, Migme Dushe Gomsumgi, Mikpatene Mebami. 33D. Answer.
Dile tröbe tönamni mikte mebar tsum joktu trowa kangne gombate shila sonre tongnidang chakchen sordo neljurso gombar döla kelanso galwe nöche tembayin galwe sonrab tadala tadadang gondre kedru shunglu tön Thorwa dakcha milamtu midö chirna mengatu chakpa namkya sonrabdang tuna legi midunse torpu danga namla bahab. Okay, very clear. As it says. So as you remember, yesterday we were talking about there is the question regards meditation with an object and meditation without an object. Okay? So, the first answer, it says 33c. It goes and it says, Panchen Gyaltsen answers. I'm sorry sometimes because in English, in Tibetan, it's so beautiful the way how it functions in Tibetan. Also the statement, the one with object and the one without object is due to the difference of the division of the supporting object. The supporting object here refers to the object of meditation. Okay? So, when you say the meditation with an object or without an object, it actually refers to different types of objects of meditation. In the sense that ultimately there is no object. No, it's not ultimately there is no object. And conventionally there is an object. With the sense that when you meditate on the ultimate object, which is when meditating on emptiness, this is called a meditation without object. And when meditating on everything else, which is conventional truth, is called a meditation with an object. Okay? And the reason is coming just after. Hence, both calm abiding and higher seeing, which observe conventional truth, are asserted as meditation with object. So both calm abiding and profound view as higher seeing, which the object of meditation is an object which is part of the conventional truth. What is part of the conventional truth? Everything else that is not the ultimate truth, which is emptiness, the lack of inherent existence. So if you meditate on impermanence, if you meditate on the mind itself, if we meditate on love, on compassion, on patience, whatever, that all these types of meditations are called a meditation with an object. Also, the statement saying, ultimately there is no object, is said so because the focused object of conception of true existence does not exist even in an atom. Is the Arya Atyaya Jnana Sutra says, since phenomena are inherently clear-lighted, is taught to meditate with the knowledge that they are unobservable. It does not mean that there is no object at all. So what happens is the following. When we say that the meditation has no object, the actual meaning is that it has no inherently existing object. In other words, what happens is the following. In the way how we are now, just trying to go to the actual meaning, okay? I will try to make it simple. Okay, we look this morning, we wake up, we go outside and we look at the mist, okay? There was this fog around. Or we go another morning and we look at the sun. Or anything else, actually. Anything could be an example of it. But when we look at it, how does it appear to our mind? As being interdependent, as depending on causes and conditions, and depending on its own parts to exist, and depending on the name that when the attribute that we, and the name and value that we attributed it, or it's simply it's there and it's fog, and I don't like the fog, or I like the fog. How do we see it? Existing by its own characteristics, existing by itself. Even now, we look out of the window and we see the fog there. It's just there. What do I have to do with it, right? But it's the same thing when we look even to the table in front of us. And actually, even when we look to our own hand, it's just there. It appears to us as if it's being of its inherent existence, as if it existed out of its own characteristic. When actually nothing exists for us independently of our own mind, independently of our own self. The way how things exist depends on the value that we attribute to it. Okay? But we are not aware of this. When we see reality, anything, it just appears to us as if it would exist 100% of its own characteristics, of its own self. So, until we don't reach a very high level of realization, which is called Buddhahood, everything that appears to us appears as being of inherent existence. In the meantime, we can understand that that's a false appearance. But everything that appears to us appears as being of inherent existence. The only moment in which we are able to cut this is if we go into single-pointed meditation on the lack of inherent existence. There is a moment where, after first calm abiding, then after developing the profound view, and from that there is a direct experience of the lack of inherent existence. When entering that state, there is nothing else to the mind than the lack of inherent existence. So this is the only moment where, before reaching Buddhahood, a person, a human sentient being, can actually be able just to block the appearance of inherent existence. Okay? Otherwise, it's constant. So, when it says the meditation without object, it means it's the meditation where there is no inherently existing object appearing to the mind. That's why it's being called the meditation without an object. Okay? Because normally everything else that we see and all the time everything that we perceive, it constantly appears as being of inherent existence, even though it's not true. But that's how phenomena appear to us. So basically what is said here is that meditation with an object means everything, meditation on love, compassion, patience, everything else that has an appearance. And meditation without object, it means the meditation on ultimate truth, which is the lack of inherent existence. You know, what is actually the ultimate truth? Is that nothing exists ultimately. Everything is conventional. Everything depends on causes, conditions, on its parts, and everything depends on the deep interdependence that is there between object of perception and the observer. Okay, so basically, it's not, when we say meditation without object, it doesn't mean emptying the mind of any object. It means basically stopping to perceive, it's stopping to have the appearance and the grasping at inherent existence. So this is here, Panchen Losang Gyaltsen makes clear what the term meditation without object means. Okay? Because some people made mistakes in the past centuries by thinking, okay, meditation without object means empty the mind of any object. But even the meditation without object still has an object of meditation. What's the object of meditation? The lack of inherent existence, emptiness, shunyata. That's the actual object of meditation, okay? So this is to make the division between what we mean by meditation with object and meditation without object in this context. Okay, I think it's quite clear, right? Okay. Okay, so just because we entered one subject, which is like opening a door that is quite deep behind, and then normally when you start talking about the correct view of reality, it's the deepest subjects within Buddhist philosophy, and personally it's the one that I most like. But I'm being very little bit careful not to go too much into it, otherwise we lose the main focus of what we are looking at right now. But we just open a little bit, so just say in English what we just said in Italian also. And basically the point is the following. When we talk about the meditation with an object and the meditation without an object, it's because now everything that appears to us appears as being of inherent existence. And when we block the perception of inherent existence, nothing else can appear to our mind. That's why it's called a meditation without an object. But what do we intend by this inherent existence? Just to make it a little bit more clear. Take, for instance, an object of attraction. I like my water. It's beautiful, it's nice, it's pleasurable, it's my object of attraction. Okay? So I don't want to give it up. It's my water. I like it. So what happens is that in the moment that I have an object of attraction, an object of desire, how does it appear to me as being an object of attraction? Because I assign such values and functions and characteristics to it, or because it is an object of attraction by its own self. The same thing happens to an object of aversion. When we have anger towards something or someone, why do we have aversion towards that person? Because that person is a basis of imputation through which I will assign certain values and characteristics, and I see the person as an object of anger, or because the person is by his own self an object of anger. That's how we see normally. Okay? But if we start actually to analyze and to look, everything that appears to us, actually, we are totally incapable, and it's fine, that's how things are, of perceiving anything independently of our own self. Anything. So I just gave one example, and normally I give this example in a different context. I give this example to show how the past is impermanent, how we can change the past. But it will go now on this different context. Let's say I'm walking on the road, and suddenly someone comes and pushes me hard. I fall on the floor, I break my arm, very painful, how to say in English, with an exposed fracture. And then there I am in the hospital with a lot of pain. The person that have pushed me, and the fact of the person pushing me to the floor and to that person, what's the feeling I have? Attraction, aversion, or indifference? Aversion, anger, whatever, okay? So, I am there in the hospital with pain, and suddenly comes the police because something like this have happened, and they have footage from a security camera that was nearby. So I could see finally who is this person. We can add many adjectives, but who is that person that harmed me, that did this to me, and so on, and we have anger towards the person, okay? Then as we see the footage, we see that actually nearby there was being a robbery, and someone was shooting, and was shooting in my direction. And that other guy saw this happening. So he pushed me in order to save my life, and he saved my life, because effectively the bullet was coming in my direction. So if he hadn't pushed me, I would be dead, most probably. So now that I see this clearly, and I look at the person, how do I feel? Still the same anger? The person of aversion became attraction, gratitude. He saved my life. The arm is still painful, but he saved my life. So what changed? The way how the person pushed changed or didn't change? No. The pain that I feel changed or not? No. The only thing that changed is the value that I attribute to it. It's the way how I see it. For example, the only difference between an object of compassion and an object of anger, the same words, the same action, the only difference is the value that we attribute to it. Okay? And many of the ways that we can perceive things are correct. What makes a perception correct or not is if the union of the parts are able to fulfill the functions that we attribute or not. So one time a person came to me and asked me, but what's the right way of seeing it? I said, there are many right ways of seeing it. The question is, what's the most convenient way of seeing it? What is more convenient to me, to see it as an object of anger or to see it as an object of compassion? Both can be right. What do I want to develop within myself? I prefer compassion. So the point here is that nothing exists for us independently of our own perception? Nothing. So what we do constantly is that we have everything that we see. What appears to our eyes is nothing more, nothing less than colors and shapes. What appears to our ears is nothing more, nothing less than sounds. And what we do is that we attribute values to such sounds. That's what a language is, a convention of values towards sounds, basically. So, when we listen to someone speaking, the words appear to us as existing by their own self. You said this, but actually, it's just a convention, it's just a value that we attribute to that sound. The same thing when we see anything, what appears to ourselves is actually just colors and shapes. But what happens is that we attribute values to it as being a chair, as being a pillar, as being this, as being that. So what constantly we do is like if we take, for instance, the book. What is this object? What is a book, if we really analyze it? It's nothing more, nothing less than the name book, and by name we mean functions and characteristics, which is attributed on a collection of parts. So there's a collection of parts, and on this collection of parts, I attribute the name book. The book do not exist independently of this, and exists nowhere else. It's just a collection of parts to which we attribute the name. And if I go to the page, which is one of the parts, what is the page? It's nothing more, nothing less than a collection of parts to which we attribute the name page. And what is Lama Michel? Nothing more, nothing less than a collection of parts to which I attribute my own name. We may feel we are very special. We are nothing more than a name attributed to a collection of parts. Okay? So, then we look to each part and it's the same thing again. Okay? So, this is later in the text, it goes through this subject again. But the main thing is that phenomena appear to us as existing by their own characteristic. We appear to ourselves as we existed by our own self without depending on anything else. But actually nothing exists to us independently of our own perception. Nothing. Even ourselves. We relate to ourselves through a mental image. And we take a collection of parts, which is body and mind, and we attribute values to it. And characteristics, functions. That's what we do. Okay? So, at this moment, we are able intellectually to understand it, and that's already wonderful. It's said in the moment that we simply start doubting the fact that existence is that of inherent existence, the simple fact of doubting inherent existence is already heating the face of ignorance. Ignorance is strong. Heating, it's not enough just to heat it once. But it's already going against our own ignorance. So, the meditation on the lack of inherent existence is what directly opposes the mind that grasps that inherent existence. Okay? But the first step which we need to do is to understand what inherent existence is. And to see how do we grasp at inherent existence. But this is, we are entering into another subject. The subject right now is a meditation without an object is not a meditation without an object at all. Meditation without an object, it means a meditation that do not grasp at any object as being of inherent existence. It's a meditation on ultimate truth. Because when we perceive the lack of inherent existence, nothing else appears to our minds than the lack of inherent existence. And this is the so-called meditation without an object. For example, this word, no object, is also used. For example, when you talk about compassion, normally there are different types of compassion. Common compassion, great compassion, compassion with object, and compassion without object. Okay? The compassion with object is a compassion specifically with based on impermanence, for example. I realize impermanence, and I see that you have not realized impermanence, and because of that you suffer even more. so I have compassion of you because you have not realized impermanence. This is what calls compassion with object, for example. A compassion without object is based because I realize the lack of inherent existence, and then I start seeing everyone that have not realized the lack of inherent existence and how this is the main cause for is the root of all their suffering, and how they suffer because of this. So I have compassion to you because you lack inherent existence and you don't know. And this is called the compassion without an object. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have an object. Okay? So, in the same way, when we talk meditation without object, it doesn't mean to meditate simply emptying the mind. There is always an object of meditation. But in this case, the object of meditation is the lack of inherent existence. Okay? Well, then we go on with the next part. 33D answer. Dile trebe tönamni mikte mebar tsumjuktu trowa kagne gombate shila sungre tongni dan chak chen sordo neljur so gombar de la kelanso galwe nöche tömba yin galwe sungrab tada dang gongre kedrup shunglu tön thorwa dacha milamtu mido chirna menga tu chakpa namkya sungrab dang tuna legi midunse torpu damga namla bab. Okay, so we go to the 33D, the answer as it says. The elaborated meaning from this point shows the contradictory harm of those who accept that, who accept that. Meditating by placing the mind without any supporting object and stopping the mind from wandering is a meditation on the union of calm abiding and higher seeing on emptiness. So it's very clear. Okay? So it's not saying that meditating of trying to stop one's own thoughts is a wrong type of meditation, generally speaking. It's saying here, the elaborated meaning from the points above shows the contradictory harm to those who accept that. So it's a contradictory point of view to accept that meditating by placing the mind without any supporting object, by trying to place the mind without any object of meditation, and stopping the mind from wandering, is a meditation on the unity of calm abiding and higher seeing on emptiness, on the true nature of reality. In other words, to stop the mind from wandering around and trying to have no object of meditation is not a meditation on emptiness. On emptiness, on Mahamudra, on individual withdrawal sordo, on yoga and so forth. On yoga and so forth, I think this is a little bit, let me just check here. No. It's not any on yoga and so forth. Neljor means yoga, means more forms of meditation. So the word yoga here refers to emptiness, Mahamudra, and individual withdrawal. Okay? So when it says, and these types of yoga and so forth, which means like Neljor refers to meditation in this context. So yoga refers to meditation, not to whatever normally we are used to exercise yoga. This refers to the actual meditation. So it means if you call it meditation on emptiness, if you call it Mahamudra, if you call it individual withdrawal, but by these names you understand to abstract the mind from any thought and without any distraction of the mind and having no object of meditation, this is wrong. Whatever name you may call it. Okay? I think it's quite clear, no? Yeah, it continues. Who accept that meditating by place? Yeah. It's yes. Oh yeah, it's correct. Who accepts that meditating by placing it? Yeah, it's one sentence, right? He goes on saying, since we would never wish to give up all the scriptures from the victor, which means the Buddha, and their meaning, the commentary texts by the scholars and adapts even in a dream, since we would not want to give up the teachings of Buddhas and all the great commentaries that came after him, even in a dream, it would be better if also those which are known as personal instructions could concord with the Holy Scripture. Because there was in Tibet people that said, but to empty the mind of any thought, this is part of Menga in Tibetan, which means it's individual instructions, personal instructions from the direct experience. And what the Lama Tsongkhapa and Panchen, Losang and Gyaltsen are saying here is like, great respect to all individual instructions, but as long as they are coherent with what Buddha taught. So it would be better also for those which are known as personal instructions, if it could be concord with the Holy Scripture of Buddhas. If they do not concord, they will fall into the category of instructions to be given up. So, if any teaching is not in accordance, is not coherent with the original teachings of Buddha and later the great commentaries from masters such as Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti and Masanga and so on, they are to be given up. They are not correct explanations, okay? If someone is able to prove the contrary, wonderful. As Lochen Vairochana said before, no? But otherwise, we should follow it. We should give up if it's not in coherence with Buddha's teachings. This is what is said here. So basically what he's saying is that, okay, you may have a personal instruction which comes from personal experience on the meditation of abstracting yourself from any thoughts and emptying the mind and so on, but this is not Mahamudra, this is not individual withdrawal, this is not meditation on emptiness. This is something else. It's just making clear this point. Okay? Where? Yeah, because after that there should be periods continuing with the next line. It's saying, the elaborated meaning from this point shows the contradictory harm to those who accept that meditating by placing the mind without any supporting object and stopping the mind from wandering is a meditation on the unity of calm abiding and higher seeing on emptiness, on Mahamudra, on individual withdrawal yoga, and so forth. Okay, the yoga goes connected with individual withdrawal yoga and so forth. Okay? Yeah, no point. There is no full stop there. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? It's just, in other words, if you want to withdraw all your thoughts and just try to empty the mind, do it. But remember, this is not meditating on emptiness. This is not meditating on the ultimate meaning. Okay? We go to the next question. At least we walk one question a day. Okay. Next question. Question number 34. That's an important point coming now. Shenyang gomla chegom dan jokum ni onga mingom. Miongna gyagarwe tsende namgi sumba di gokam. Ongna gomte nisu jebe gyumtsen chi yin. Yang chegom yinam mayin. Mayina gyagar keba nam. Yana chegom gom yina mayim. Mayina gyagar keba namgi. Gom tu sundu bate noram. Te gom yina lor chowa gomgi geg yimbe. Chor mitup serwe gyumtse kanyin. Tine Losang shibidrayale. Tena gomla chejob ni cheching chebe gyumtsen yang tarpa döbe shinedang taktung ebar drupgo chir. Sosor tope sherabgi yang cheching gompadang tinge zinge targyurpe chogo chikpar migyurla. This question brings us to a very important point of meditation, which was clarified by Lama Tsongkhapa at his time in Tibet. Okay? So I will go through the question. Question number 34, and it says, besides that, does meditation have two divisions? analytical meditation and stabilizing meditation or not. Stabilizing meditation means single-pointed meditation. So the question is there a division between analytical meditation and single-pointed meditation? Is there or not? If it does not have these two types, should we refuse these teachings from the authentic Indian masters? If it does have two types, what is the reason for dividing the meditation into two, analytical and single-pointed meditation? Is analytical meditation a meditation? If it is not, the Indian scholars have said that it is a meditation. So, is it thus a mistake? If it is a meditation, what is the point of saying not to let the mind wander in analytical meditation, not to let the mind wander? Since a mental, what's the point of saying not to let the mind wander in analytical meditation, since a mental wandering is hypothetically an obstacle for meditation? Let me just go to the Tibetan of this question 1 second, sorry. Te gomina lo trowa gomki gek yimbe tor mitup serwe gyumse kanyin. He said, if it is meditation, what do we mean when we say that the wandering of the mind is an obstacle for meditation? No? Because if analysis means thinking, is this the same thing as the wandering of the mind or not? If it is, then how can this be meditation? Because the wandering of the mind is an obstacle for meditation. Okay? This point was a very important point at the time of Lama Tsongkhapa, even now actually. Even nowadays, very few people accept analytical meditation as meditation. Normally, meditation is seen as single-pointed meditation only. And at the time of Lama Tsongkhapa, this was very strong. Lama Tsongkhapa was the first one in Tibet to introduce analytical meditation as meditation. Okay? Because the point of view was, okay, but in the moment you have more thoughts, this becomes mental wandering, so this cannot be meditation. Okay? So have the answer that comes and say. Furthermore, the reason dividing meditation into two, analytical and stabilizing means single-pointed meditation, is that those who want liberation must definitively achieve calm abiding and higher seeing. With the wisdom of individual investigation, one analyzes often and meditates. Mental wandering and excitement, which are the enemies of concentration, cannot be the same. So, what it means? It's quite clear actually that analytical meditation, it means that we choose an object, let's take for instance impermanence or emptiness or any other thing, okay? And before we reach the state of calm abiding and profound view, we need first to do what is called here individual investigation. In this case, we need to analyze it, we need to understand it, we need to go deep into that object. I need to reach the conclusion. Because there is a big difference in repeating a concept and understanding a concept. If I say to you, oh yes, all composed phenomena are impermanent, all phenomena lack inherent existence. Beautiful. But how can I meditate on it if I really don't know what it means? It's not possible. It says, I don't remember who said that now, I think it was Milarepa, anyhow, I'm not sure. It says, to meditate without listening and comprehending is like trying to, scalare, try to climb a rock with closed hands. Trying to scale a rock with closed hands. So, if I need to meditate on the meaning of emptiness, I must understand what emptiness is and not just repeat a concept, emptiness. If I need to meditate on impermanence, I must reach the conclusion of impermanence within myself and not just repeat the concept of impermanence, right? So this comes through the process of listening and comprehending first. But the point is even further. Once I understand, even that is not enough to meditate. Because, for example, do we understand the meaning of impermanence? I suppose, yes. But if we need to stop and meditate on impermanence, is the concept of impermanence coming just like this? Or we need to induce ourselves to the actual concept of impermanence? We need to induce ourselves to it. When we say emptiness, are we able to reach the understanding of emptiness? Yes, but is it coming spontaneously out of nothing? No. It's like we need to do the equation. Right? So how do we do that? By analysis. And the analysis that we do in meditation is not mental wandering. Because mental wandering is when the mind is not sticking to its own object and is out of control. When we do an analysis, it's not just the mind sticking at the same object, which means single-pointedly, but it's not going out of the object. I'm making analysis of impermanence. I'm not thinking about lunch, I'm not thinking about my friend, I'm not thinking about other things. I'm thinking about impermanence. And I'm analyzing how come it is impermanent. I'm thinking about emptiness. I'm analyzing how come it is empty of inherent existence. So I am actually not single-pointed, because single-pointed means there is nothing else in the mind than one specific object. But at the same time, it means not without mental wandering. Because mental wandering means the mind is not sticking at one point, it is going around without control. And in this case, what we do is that we choose one subject, one concept, for example, impermanence, or the lack of inherent existence, or there are many others like the preciousness of this life, or the certainty of death. It can be through many, many other, or the importance of relying correctly upon the Guru. There can be many, many things that we meditate upon. And if we just try to meditate right away on them, it's just a concept that we really don't, it's not our concept. We are repeating something that someone tells us. Instead, we need to go through the process of analysis in order to make that concept become our own concept. And once we understand it truly, then we can really meditate on it. Okay? In other words, if we use some technical words here, we have the meditation. We can meditate following 3 different levels, we could say. The first level is where our object of meditation is based on a correct assumption. So we meditate on impermanence with an assumption that phenomena are impermanent. We really don't understand what it means. It's not our own conclusion. Oh, but the Lama said phenomena are impermanent, Buddha said so let's meditate, everything is impermanent. Okay? I don't know really why, I have never had a direct experience of it, but I believe in it. That's what we call a correct assumption. It's the first step in the beginning, but this is when we have concluded the part of listening. It's called the wisdom of listening. Once we have a correct assumption, okay, yes, phenomena are impermanent. I believe in it. I'm just at the first step. Now I need to understand it. I need to make that understanding my own understanding. I need to go through the analysis, and I need to reach what is called inferential valid cognition. Inferential valid cognition, it means a correct perception which is based on correct logics. Reasoning. It's when we really understand it by our own reasoning and logic. So I understand that phenomena are impermanent. Even if Buddha come now and say phenomena are not impermanent, I would not believe him, because I have my own logic, I have my own reasoning. It's clear to me. Okay? When we reach that state, then it's the right moment really to meditate single-pointed on impermanence. because we have the object is clear, the object of meditation is clear. So we should not meditate on something if it's not clear the actual object of meditation. What am I going to meditate on if I don't know the object? So first I need to analyze the object. I need to understand the object. Then I can stabilize my mind into it and make single-pointed concentration on it. So the process of analysis through meditation, which means I sit down, I breathe, I bring my mind to a state of concentration and calm, then I go through the analysis of how come the flower is impermanent, and how is the way how the flower appeared to me as being permanent, and how come that's the wrong way of perception, and actually it is impermanent, why, and so on, until I get to the conclusion the flower is impermanent, wow. And then I remain in that single-pointed. But the whole process that comes before is an analytical meditation. And we can do analytical meditation in silent or speaking also. Like when we do debating in the monastery is analytical meditation. So, one of the ways of doing analytical meditation is like, imagine that we need to explain something to someone that really have no understanding about it. So imagine we sit down and we need to explain to someone why the flower is impermanent. But the person do not believe in it, the person do not understand it at all, even though for us it looks obvious, the person have no understanding at all about it. So we need to convince the person why the flower is impermanent. So then we need to go through every detail and explain how come, look, the flower is changing and this and that, blah, blah, blah. We give all the examples until we are able to convince, yes, the flower is impermanent. When we reach that conclusion, then we just stick our mind to it. And with mindfulness, we remain with the mind on that conclusion. That's when we have the stabilizing meditation or single-pointed meditation. But before that, there is the whole part of analytical meditation. For example, to meditate on the preciousness of this life, which is one of the first meditations we need to do actually. Okay? The sensation of preciousness of this life is not something only conceptual. It's a feeling. This life is precious. I cannot waste it. Okay? But does it come spontaneously? No. So what we do first analytical meditation. Why is this life precious? How rare are the conditions I have? And then as we go through it, until we are able to induce ourselves to a deep sensation, this life is precious, I cannot waste it. It's how precious and rare this life is. When we get to that conclusion, then we stick our mind to it. And then we go into calm abiding on that conclusion. But before that, we need to do the whole analytical meditation. And because we have not yet realized the preciousness of this life, we need to induce ourselves to that state through analytical meditation again and again and again and again in order to be able to single-pointed concentrate on it. Okay? Because if I just said, okay, meditate on the preciousness of this life, just think this life is precious, this life is precious, this life is precious, it's not working. What we need to do? We need to induce ourselves through the whole process of analysis why this life is precious, why this life is rare, how are the precious conditions that I have, how difficult it is to get this, what this provides me, what opportunity this provides me. And like this we go on and on until we reach the conclusion, which is not so conceptual, in which we say, this life is so precious. Then we remain into that single-pointed in order to get familiarized with that state of mind. Sure. Like training ourselves, coaching ourselves, that's what meditation is all about. So, what we do is that first we go through an analytical way meditation in order to induce our mind to a certain state. Then we keep single-pointed meditation in order to go deeply into that. Okay? Because the deeper we go into the single-pointed meditation, the easier it is to generate that state of mind again after, in a spontaneous way. Let's make one example more simple. Let's say I take this book, okay? You look at this book. Can you see it? Okay? Now, can you imagine the book? Yes, right? We can remember the book. But most probably, after a few days, it will be difficult to remember how the book was, right? Because we are not well acquainted. I remember very well because it's one of my favorite books, also physically. I'm quite attached to it. Okay? That's why I even made a new cover, because it was all falling apart. Okay? But what happened is that I like this book also because, for example, it is still one of the old books. When you go with the hand, it has a special texture. Because this book was printed with the old type of printers that go with these lead letters made of lead. Then they stick them together, and it is big machine that goes with the weight on top of every page with the ink together. When I reached the monastery, the printing press was still like that. And this is one of the few books that I still have which were printed in that way. And actually there's a complete different feeling of the book itself, and somehow I like it. Okay? And so this is just to say, so if I go and I start describing the book, okay, the book is talking about the functions of the mind and the 51 mental factors and the different types of mental states. And it's for me a very important book also because it was, when I received these teachings from my teacher Geshe Thupte Rinchen, it was a very special moment for me also. It was a moment of opening my mind to different concepts and really, really opening my eyes for the world in a different way. So it has been very, very, very important for me, this whole thing. So this book is very important because it brings memories, it has meanings within it, and so on, okay? So the more I describe the book to you, what happened to the mental image of the book? It's get more detailed, more rich, okay? So then I start saying to you how many pages the book has, what is the size of it, and we start analyzing the meaning, how many chapters. We go to analyze the book. The more we analyze the book, the easier will be to bring back later the mental image of the book. But when we finish to analyze the book, if we single point concentrate on the book and we remain one looking at the book and observing it with all that the book represents and with all the aspects that we have analyzed to it, and we single point concentrate our mind into it, after it will be so easy to remember the book. Okay? If we just look and say, okay, nice book, okay, finished, gone, after we'll forget it more easily. So the point is that our objective, the process of realization, goes to 3 steps, which is correct assumption, valid inferential cognition, and direct valid cognition. Okay? Correct assumption, valid inferential cognition, and valid direct cognition. When we have a valid direct cognition, it means when we realize something non-conceptually. And that's when it's the realization of it. So in permanence, there is a moment in which it's possible to realize impermanence, which is an experience that goes beyond words, a non-conceptual experience where we can directly experience the fact that everything is constantly changing. Before that, it's through a concept, through a mental image, that in the beginning is just an assumption. Then we can actually have that concept becomes ours. We understand it deeply through analysis. And then we single point concentrate on it through calm abiding and profound view. We go deeply and deeply into that concept until a moment that is not a concept anymore. It becomes something spontaneous and direct. Okay? Which is a direct valid cognition, a mental direct valid cognition. That's when we realize it. That's why sometimes we say, first learn, understand, and after forget. Which means first we go through the conceptual understanding, but the actual realization is non-conceptual. Okay? If we make an example which is not the best one, let's say we need to learn how to play an instrument. In the beginning we have the theory, then we start playing. In the beginning we need to think how to play, where to put my hands, and so on. When we are really excellent on it, what happens is that the instrument becomes an extension of the body. You don't need to think anymore to do that. It comes spontaneously. Okay? Similar to that. Now, when we look at things, they appear to us as being permanent, as being of inherent existence, and so on. When we think about our life, it doesn't come spontaneously that how precious this life is. We take it for granted. So we need to stop, we need to reflect upon it. Yes, this life is precious. Yes, it is rare, and so on, until we reach that state. And by training ourselves within it, then it can come spontaneously and naturally. Okay? That's when we realize it. So the process is, first we do analytical meditation. Through analytical meditation, we are able to induce ourselves to the concept or to the state of consciousness that we want to familiarize ourselves with. Once we induce ourselves to that concept, with truly understanding of that concept, or to that state of mind, for example, the preciousness of this life, when we reach that state, then we do single-pointed, calm, abiding meditation on it to familiarize our mind with that state. Without the initial analytical meditation, that is not possible. And analytical meditation is not a state of mind wandering, because the mind is concentrated on one point. It's without mental agitation, it's without mental laxity, it's with clearness, but it goes through the analysis. Okay? I think it's quite clear, no? And it's very important to understand the meaning and the importance of analytical meditation. Otherwise, it becomes like so difficult even to understand what it means, how to meditate on impermanence, how to meditate on the preciousness of this life, how to meditate on the certainty of death and the certainty of the uncertainty of the moment of death. Or like this, we can go on and on. Of so many examples, how to meditate on the importance of relying correctly upon the spiritual guide. We could go on and on of so many examples that are there. How do we familiarize my mind with it? It's not just thinking, oh, life will end. No, it's not like that. I need to go through the whole process until I develop the feeling in which I deeply understand life is impermanent. I will die, I don't know when. When I get this deep inside myself, clearly, then I stick my mind to it. Because it is still induced, it's not spontaneously. Okay? If we need to meditate on all of this gradually. If we take Guru Puja, okay, and you go to verse 84, for instance, okay, here is showing the steps that we need to meditate on, which is called Lamarim, the gradual path to enlightenment. So if we go through it and we start, verse 84 is talking about relying correctly upon the Guru. Verse 85, it's talking about the preciousness of this life. Verse 86 is talking about the sufferings of samsara. And like this we go on and on. Verse 85 is talking both about the preciousness of this life and impermanence. And like this we go on. There is a very precise path to follow actually on that. And as we realize each one of them, we go to the next step. One is helping to go to the other. But there is a process of familiarization, of training the mind within that. Okay? But what the important point that I just wanted to bring today is that not I want to bring, this is what Lama Tsongkhapa is guiding us through, is to understand the importance of analytical meditation. Okay? And it is really like, it changes completely the perspective of meditation once we understand that there is analytical meditation first. And that in order for me to sit and to concentrate on something, I must understand that something. I must reach that something. One thing is to meditate, for example, on our breath. Okay? I just sit down and observe my breath. That's simple. I can perceive it so easily. Another thing is to meditate on a concept which can be the preciousness of this life, which can be compassion, which can be bodhicitta or the general sufferings of samsara, understanding what is samsara. There's so many other things. To meditate on that, I must first reach it so I can stay in it. And in order for me to reach there, the process that we use is I need to induce myself to that understanding and to that state of consciousness. For example, to meditate on love is a state of consciousness that I need to induce myself to that. We do not meditate on the concept of love. We meditate on the state of love. So I need to induce myself to the mental state of loving others, then I stay on that state. But first I need to induce myself to it. No, we induce ourselves by doing our analytical meditation when it's a concept, and when we talk about love, we have different process of inducing ourselves to it through visualization and process of logics. For example, first we need to go through equanimity. We start observing other beings around us, how everyone suffers in the same way as we suffer, how everyone desires to have the same state of happiness as we do. Then we start observing the suffering of others. Then we start developing empathy towards them, and then by that we develop the wish, may they be happy. Then through visualization also it helps us, as we visualize, for example, light going from our heart to the heart of others and generating them, eliminating their suffering and so on. By doing all this process, and many of them, for example, we do with visualization also, we induce ourselves until we have the feeling, I wish you to be happy. Which is not understanding, oh, I am feeling love. We don't even think about it. We don't even give the name of it. But we generate the feeling of love. And then once we do that, then we stay on that state. Okay? So we need first to go through an analytical way, both to develop, to bring ourselves to a certain concept or to a certain state of consciousness so that we can develop the calm abiding of it, to remain on that state. It's not possible to meditate on something without first reaching that something that we need to meditate on. This is also a big point of discussion between Lama Tsongkhapa and other masters of his time and later, because some would say to meditate on the true nature of reality, it just comes like this. You can suddenly, if you just let yourself go, it will just come to you without needing to study, without needing to understand it. Lama Tsongkhapa said, no, in order for you to meditate on a concept, first you need to understand it. You need to induce yourself to it. Then you can stick your mind to it and meditate on it. Otherwise, it would never come. So this is one of the specific ways of the Gelugpa tradition from Lama Tsongkhapa. Because before, it was not so clear the existence and the need of analytical meditation. Okay? Then there is the danger also of only analyzing and never meditating. This is another thing. Then we may think, oh, there is a danger of thinking, oh, I only need to analyze, I don't need to meditate. No. That's very Western. In the West, we have the idea that it's enough to understand. And understanding is just the first step. Once we understand, then we need to stick our mind to it and familiarize ourselves with it so it can become natural and spontaneous. It's not enough to understand that this life is precious. I need to repeat this to myself again and again and induce myself to that state again and again so I reach a point where it comes naturally and spontaneously to me. Okay? I think it's quite clear. Yes? Yes. Sosortokpa. Let me just check the Tibetan 1 second here. Sosortokpe Sherabki. In Tibetan is very precise. The wisdom of discrimination. Sosortokpe Sherabki. Because the wisdom of discrimination is basically the mind that is able to discern one thing from the other. So, for example, what is impermanence? Who is going to describe clearly what is impermanence? It's the wisdom of discrimination. Impermanence is this, is not that. So it's to put things clear. You know? So, sosorto pesherab. Here, it's the word in Tibetan is very clear. It's the wisdom of discriminating, or the discriminating wisdom. There are different types of wisdoms, but in this case, it's the wisdom of discrimination, which is, or the discriminative wisdom, whatever name we give, but it's basically the ability to have clear what is this, that is that. So through the wisdom of discrimination, we reach the conclusion, okay, this is impermanence, and then we stick our mind to it. Okay? So this is all for this morning. Okay? And it's really important for us to understand the need and the meaning of analytical meditation as the basis for the single-pointed meditation, as the basis for the realization. Okay?
Gyaltsen Lama kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepa dang Losang tempe drome sasungi drove Michel tatu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshi Ninsen taktu delekpe koncho sumge jinge lob Koncho sumge ngodrupso, koncho sumge trashisho.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Umahun Tembalame Sangye Rinpoche, Kyobalame Tamcho Rinpoche, Tembalame Gendo Rinpoche, Kyamne Kuncho Sumla Chopa Bu, Locho Sambo Pakyu Trash, Tuche Tempe Tinle Yarngo Da, Peke Drolo Zambe Tsebrach, Panden Lame Shela Chopa Bu, Kanshi Drempa Samge Chin, Parche Kunse Leshi Tinle Nam, Soze Gyache Shukden Ringats, Tensum Kordan Chela Chopa, Kenam Chochi Soa Tabe to Daso Kanto Nebe Sachodir, Neda Ubon Tabso Shiwadan Chodan Trashi Pelwar Zedu So.